Hi guys, Sean here from digiDirect. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new Nikon P1000, which is the latest in their lineup of super zooms that have crazy long zoom ranges. On the P1000 it has a 125 times zoom, which is equivalent to 24 to 3000 millimeters. So this is replacing the popular P900 that's been out for the past couple of years. Not only does it increase the zoom range over the P900, it also adds a couple other nifty features as well. We're going to discuss all the features of the P1000 and where it differs from the P900, and let's start with the body. So this is definitely a pretty big camera, mostly due to the massive zoom lens on it. It's just under 1.5 kilos, which is actually about 500 grams heavier than the P900, so it's a non-trivial size increase. This is definitely significantly bigger than the P900 was. Design-wise, while this is of course a non-interchangeable lens camera, people who are used to shooting with DSLRs and similar are going to feel comfortable because the design is very similar to that type of camera. There are two separate zoom control toggles, so I can change the zoom either with my right hand here on the top, or if I'm cradling the camera underneath, I can use my thumb to adjust this one, which is nice, so you can use some different shooting positions and still be able to control the zoom pretty much however you're holding it. There is a fully articulating LCD screen like the P900, although this one is slightly larger at 3.2 inches. Notably, the viewfinder here has seen a really nice upgrade. It's now 2.36 million dots, which is up from 900,000 on the P900. It's also almost double the size and has increased magnification. So this is going to make shooting through the viewfinder a lot easier, which is really good because viewfinder shooting is the most stable handheld position. You can have your two hands on it and it can be a contact point on your eye, which is going to have the camera be more stable, which is obviously relevant when you've got a zoom lens this long. There is a manual focus ring at the front, and the camera does have focus peaking, which is of course handy for manual focusing. When using autofocus though, this ring can also control either exposure compensation, white balance, or ISO, which is a nice touch. On the side we've got HDMI, USB, and an external mic input, and the camera also has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So inside the P1000 is a fairly small sensor. It's a 1 by 2.3 sensor, which is smaller even than a 1-inch size sensor that some higher end compacts have. However, that smaller sensor is what allows it to have that longer zoom range. Smaller sensors allow for longer zoom ranges more easily, and that's obviously the main attraction on this camera. I already mentioned it has a 24 to 3000 millimeter equivalent zoom range, optical zoom, not digital. The P900 had a 24 to 2000 millimeter zoom range. Look, with the zoom range that long, you can really shoot almost anything. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a lot of jokes about using the P1000 to stalk people or take photos of aliens or whatever. But more seriously, it represents a huge amount of flexibility. If you just want one camera that can shoot pretty much anything, the P1000 really is it. Obviously, it has a lot of synergy if you're shooting, wildlife, birds in particular, sports games and so on, anything where you can't get close enough to a subject. This is really going to do the job for you, of course. But it even does a good job at medium and wide focal lengths. There's even a macro mode that lets you shoot at with only 1 centimeter distance from the front of the lens. So you can use it in non-crazy zoom situations as well, which just adds to its kind of jack of all trades, kind of does everything nature. So with the zoom range this long, an important feature definitely is image stabilization, because without it, you're not going to be able to shoot at these long focal lengths, at least not handheld. And luckily, the P1000 does have 5 stops of vibration reduction built into the camera, and it does a pretty good job. You can shoot handheld at up to 3000 millimeters with this camera, which is pretty impressive. Now, you still need to have a bit of a steady hand to do that, and you are going to get better results off a tripod when you're at that kind of focal length, but it is doable handheld. All the sample shots that you're seeing here, I shot completely handheld, even the ones at 3000 mil and around there. So it is definitely doable, which is a nice testament to the quality of the image stabilization in the camera. The autofocus on this camera is also pretty good. It's not a D850, of course, but I found it to be pretty fast and pretty accurate and responsive. It can also shoot up to 7 frames per second burst shooting. And a nice feature on it is that you can actually shoot raw photos on this camera. Most of the cameras in Nikon's Coolpix lineup, of which the P1000 is a part of, can only shoot JPEGs. But on the P1000 you can shoot RAWs, which is nice if you're someone who wants to edit your photos more heavily. You can have a bit more latitude in post-production when you've got raw photos, so that's nice to have on this camera. Now the last thing I'll say about the zoom on this camera is just to mention the bird and moon shooting modes, which each have dedicated settings on the mode dial. In the bird mode, you can set a preferred focal length, and then every time you press the OK button, it's going to zoom into that focal length. You also have a snapback button, so if your subject flies out of frame, you lose it. Press the snapback, it'll zoom out, you can reacquire it, press the OK button, and it'll zoom back into your preferred focal length again. So just a handy and fast way of grabbing a subject, zooming out to reacquire it, zooming back in without having to use the zoom dial as much. And the moon shooting mode, this is obviously used for shooting the moon, which you absolutely can do with this camera, yes. And it essentially just gives you a couple different tint and white balance options. Looking at video, a nice new feature on the P1000 is that it can shoot 4K video at 30 frames per second. The P900 can only shoot 1080, which is a nice feature for people who want to be leveraging that zoom range for video use. It also has a mic input on the camera, which the P900 did not have, which means you can mount an external microphone on there to get some better quality audio. And it even has clean HDMI output. If you want to be recording using an external recorder, you can take clean output from the P1000. So overall, the P1000 is a pretty impressive bridge camera. Obviously, the focal length numbers it puts up are frankly crazy. It's definitely the headline and the most impressive feature on the camera, but there's a lot of other nice upgrades on it as well. The much improved viewfinder, the new shooting modes, the 4K video shooting capabilities, and the mic input are all nice upgrades over the P900, which was already a very popular camera in its own right, so I think the P1000 is going to be a very popular camera. It's not a compact camera, but if you want one camera that can pretty much always get the shot, the P1000 is a good option. It will be out very shortly, September 2018. You can order it on our website at www.digidirect.com.au. Once the camera is out, you can feel free to come to one of our stores. You can test it out for yourself, see what 3000 millimeters is like in person. We've got stores in the Sydney CBD, Bondi Junction, Miranda, the Brisbane and Melbourne CBD, and Cannington, Western Australia, which is just outside the Perth CBD. Thanks, guys. Take care.